But with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty violations, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. Pinigigi, and thank you for your support.
The City of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis AIR dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis AIR on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
Culture prevents so many negative things from happening to us as individuals and as communities.
Strong roots begin with a healthy heart. For Indigenous women, heart health is part of caring for community, culture, and future generations. Even small steps can help protect what matters most. Discover ways to support your heart at hennepincounty.gov/hearts-beats, because your heart beats for generations.
Fair fun starts on Metro Transit. Instead of driving, park your car for free at one of 6 express bus sites and take a nonstop air-conditioned ride straight to the Minnesota State Fair. Or take one of the 3 regular bus routes that serve the fairgrounds. Learn more at metrotransit.org/state-fair. That's metrotransit.org/state-fair.
Hey, it's Robert Pilot from Native Roots Radio. For a meal that feeds your soul and health, check out Gatherings Cafe. Located in the renovative Minneapolis American Indian Center, Executive Chef Vernon Defoe and team serve up incredible Indigenous flavors. Gatherings Cafe has amazing bison tacos featuring lean protein from native wise, corn tortillas, and homemade sides. It's fresh, local food rooted in ancestral knowledge. Stop by for breakfast or lunch. That's Gatherings Cafe, where tradition meets innovation.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Tonight, partly cloudy with a low of 66, then Friday, a chance of showers with a high of 84. Farmer's Kitchen and Bar brings the flavors of the harvest to downtown Minneapolis, featuring selections like locally sourced poultry and wild rice meatballs. Farmer's Kitchen and Bar is located on 2nd Street next to the Guthrie Theater. Check them out at farmerskitchenandbar.com.
Portions of Native Roots Radio may be pre-recorded.
It's a good day to be Indigenous.
Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake. Welcome to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade. Hey, Karagita, all my friends and relatives in 4 directions. You are listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot. Hey, we discuss local, national, Native news and events. And as you know, Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues. Hey, we have our friend Robert Lilligren on, and President and CEO of Native American Community Development Institute. Great to see you, Robert. It's been a couple of weeks, but I'm really glad that you can spend some time with us tonight.
Yeah, bonjour, Robert. Thanks for having me. Sorry I've been away for a couple of weeks, but it's always good to be back.
A lot going on, and a couple things I want to mention to you and get what you think. So this past election, with a lieutenant governor winning and winning big, we have all these media outlets that were calling this election close. Immediately after the lieutenant governor won by almost 20%, we were talking about the next election being close. And my math says that the lieutenant governor had more votes than 9 Republican candidates combined, the top 9. So is it fake news, or do they want to keep the bills coming? And what's going on here?
You know, I'm not 100% what's going on, but I do believe that I did believe that Peggy Flanagan was going to win. the primary. And so for folks from not from Minnesota, Tuesday was our primary election, and our lieutenant governor, my White Earth sister, Peggy Flanagan, won big. And she was outspent. And I've seen a bunch of different numbers around this, but somewhere between 4 and 10 times the amount was spent against her, right? And she still prevailed. Her campaign message was the many over the money. Peggy Flanagan is a brilliant organizer, and so she proved that correct, right? Getting people power was more important than getting money power. And so she won by 20 points, which is crazy. And if you look at the electoral map, Peggy won in the urban core, the urban cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul, and the surrounding suburbs, which would be expected. Her opponent, Congresswoman Angie Craig, won in, it's almost like a donut. There's a circle around the most urban communities where Angie Craig won, and then Peggy won everything else, everything, including the most rural and remote parts of the state, where people thought she wasn't competitive even. And so I think that electoral map really shows that the question of electability has been answered, right? She can clearly draw in votes from across the state. And then some very interesting things, like even in that donut that her opponent Angie Craig won, the counties that Angie Craig herself represented, Dakota County, for example, it's a metro county here in Minnesota. It tends to be a little purplish, but and Angie flipped that seat the first time she ran, Angie Craig, from red to blue. But even in Dakota County, Robert, Angie only won by 100 votes.
Wow.
So Peggy is super electable, and I think she's really in the forefront of what's happening nationally politically now.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that warms my heart, and Robert, you being a former politician yourself, have to agree, is that shaking hands and seeing people eye to eye and asking what's going on with them. What Peggy went over, 300 different communities in a year?
Right. So back in my day, so I'm a former Minneapolis City Council member. I'm the first tribal citizen ever elected to office in the City of Minneapolis, right? Peggy's the second when she ran for school board back in 2004. But we called that retail politics, right? That person-to-person connection. And that's how you win elections. And Peggy Flanagan is a brilliant retail politician. I was just saying this earlier today. When you're with Peggy Flanagan and she's talking to you, you feel like you're the most important person in the world. It's a gift, right? It's a gift she possesses. And so that's going to bring her over. And in the long run, it's not money that wins elections. It's how people feel about the candidate.
Well, and I think we talked about this, or maybe it was with Tom Weber, but one of the things I brought up was that it reminded me of Wellstone winning and being outnumbered, but that was not the primary, but that was the election that he, the money was so against him and he still won.
Right. So he was outspent, Peggy's outspent. I mean, there's work to be done, right? We got to work between now and the general election. And I am really excited and hopeful and confident that Peggy will take the seat. We haven't had a statewide Republican elected in Minnesota since I think 2002, if I'm not mistaken. So, we're kind of a purplish state when you get down into it. But as far as our statewide constitutional offices go, we've been blue for 25 years.
Well, and two, I've always said this too on our show over the years, Robert, is that I'm really glad that land doesn't vote. So when you see the
Right.
map, it looks like the whole state's red, but there's two people there, and so I'm glad land can't vote.
Agree, and it's people, right? It's a people-powered campaign, and we've had I've already seen a lot of criticism about Peggy's chances, and there was this big narrative that she was unelectable, right, in Minnesota because she's too far left. But first off, if you look at the national landscape, and maybe we could talk about that a little bit about this later on, but if you look at her actual electoral map, she won everywhere. Some of her strongest counties were in the most rural locations. So she is ultimately electable. She is connecting extremely well with populations throughout the state and even the most rural areas. And I think people are just tired, right? They're tired of the status quo. People want change. Peggy is a change candidate. And I read this great term in some analysis this week that said we are entering the post-Trump political era. And I love this concept of post-Trump. We're tired of this. Nobody feels better today than they did before Trump was elected.
Wow, really good point. And I feel, and you can help me with this, correct me or not. I feel that Minnesota, as long as I've been around, I think we voted for one Republican president since 1961, and I think that was Nixon's re-election in 74. But we're blue and we're progressive as heck, and so when you hear the news talking about it being a close race and then this person can't win, we're a very progressive state and have been for a very long time. So again, I don't know what to say about mainstream media. Thank goodness we have AM 950, and thank goodness we have Robert Lilligren, and we're going to take a break. We'll be right back after this short break. Ho-ah!
Planning to ride Metro Transit? Starting Saturday, August 22nd, quarterly service changes will take effect on some bus and rail routes. These regular updates help Metro Transit match service to customer needs and make the best use of available resources. Before you travel, check to see if your route is affected. Updated schedules and a summary of all service changes are available now at metrotransit.org. Again, find those changes at metrotransit.org.
Maintaining our health, particularly our heart health, is very important to us as a family.
Your heart gives you time with family, time with community, time to pass down what matters. Protecting your heart helps keep those moments alive. A visit with a healthcare provider can be one step toward a healthier future. Learn more at hennepincounty.gov/hearts-beats. Your heart health is essential because your heart beats for generations.
Fair fun starts on Metro Transit. Instead of driving, park your car for free at one of 6 express bus sites and take a non-stop air-conditioned ride straight to the Minnesota State Fair. Or take one of the 3 regular bus routes that serve the fairgrounds. Learn more at metrotransit.org/state-fair. That's metrotransit.org/state-fair.
The City of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis AIR dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis AIR on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
Oh, this is Dallas Goldtooth, and you're listening to the Native Roots Radio. Hoka, hicha, wecha.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot. Hey, welcome back, everyone. We are here with our friend. This is Robert Lilligren and Robert Pilot, and this is Native Roots Radio. Robert Lilligren is CEO and president of Native American Community Development Institute, and our friend here for many, many years on Native Roots Radio. Robert, thanks again for coming on, and just really exciting. It's always great to be involved in politics one way or the other, and be on the winning side.
It's always fun to win. And you're someone who won 3 elections and lost one. I can verify. It's always more fun to win. But this is such an exciting time, Robert. I appreciate your ongoing engagement and support. And so we're talking about our sister, our White Earth sister, Peggy Flanagan, literally my White Earth sister. And she will likely become, provided we do our work, she'll be the first Native woman ever elected to the U.S. Senate, which will be super excited. There's an Indigenous woman in Alaska who has a shot of being elected this cycle. There's an Indigenous person in Hawaii, a man that has the chance of being elected. So we might see an unprecedented level of Indigenous people representing us at the Capitol.
Well, one thing too, I have to mention, regardless what happens, but we know it's going to happen, and in good things, is that we're going to have a woman governor too.
Right.
That's pretty amazing too.
It is amazing, and it's been long overdue. And both of the leading party nominees are women. The Democrat, of course, is Amy Klobuchar, a senator, the most popular electoral politician, I think, in Minnesota history, or certainly within my lifetime. She wins elections by enormous margins. And so I like the balance of our Democratic ticket here in Minnesota. Here in Minnesota, the Democratic Party is the Democratic Farmer Labor Party, so the DFL, which is a collaborative structure built in the middle of the last century to overcome an entrenched Republican majority, which they did brilliantly, and we're still living off that. So the DFL are, so we will have a woman governor, like I said, long overdue, and I'm looking forward to Amy Klobuchar being the Minnesota governor.
Hey, back to Peggy. One of the things that you said that when you were looking at the map, that she won rural, and I think people really understand what she's saying, that she's for the people, not the money, especially when hospitals, healthcare, and all these things are closing because of the federal person there.
I think you're right on there, Robert. I think it's that healthcare issue that's really resonating with rural Minnesotans. And it wasn't that she just won in rural Minnesota. It's that she just, triumphed. I mean, her numbers are amazing. And like you said in the last segment, Peggy got more votes than all the Republican nominees combined, and not just for senator, for all of the offices on the Republican side. And so I think that's showing where the voter enthusiasm is as we lead into the midterm general election. I'm trying to remember the number right off the top of my head, but I think it's fewer than half the number of Republicans voted than Democrats. There's excitement on the Democratic side, and I think there's disillusionment on the Republican side. And I will just say, none of the Republican nominees that prevailed in the primary are going to generate enthusiasm like Peggy will. I think she's going to bring the ticket over the top. I think it's her vibe.
Yeah. Hey, and speaking of vibe, I have to give flowers to Angie Craig in her speech after she was defeated that night. I was like, wow, that is class and class act, and immediately endorsed the lieutenant governor and also called Mega Michelle.
Right.
That was great. But what do you think? I mean, that was just a class act.
I agree. I was so impressed. I mean, she came out right away, right? It was immediate. As soon as the results were clear. And, she encouraged everyone to support Peggy. She said she's 100% for Peggy. And I agree. It was a very classy statement, a very classy concession, and I'm very pleased with that. And so, but like I said, I've lost an election, and I was just sharing this at the meeting I was in right before we were here. Back when I lost my election, whatever that was, 2015, in our local sort of what's happening newspaper. It's called City Pages, and they, excuse me, did an article about my concession speech, and then Mark Andrew, who was running for mayor at the time, his concession speech, and they lifted these up and they said, these are how you concede, right? And so I appreciate a good and classy concession speech, and I will say Angie Craig did a great job.
Yeah, and excited, and who knows where she might land too, seeing that there's going to be, if Amy Klobuchar wins, there's going to be an open seat for that. I mean, explain that to our audience, because I still have like flashbacks of Wendy Anderson becoming a senator and from governor, and he appointing himself, and that kind of ruined his career.
Yeah, that's iffy territory, right? And, I think back to, I think I was in high school when Hubert Humphrey died as a senator, and they appointed his widow, Muriel Humphrey. And I think that makes sense. You have Lindsey Graham, who died, and his sister was appointed. And I think there's a tribute. It's like a tribute, right, to the senator. Now she's running for Senate, which I think is a mistake. But she is. But what happens is, depending on the length of time till the next election for the office, the governor of the state has the authority to appoint a senator into a vacancy. And so to me, that has two really important impacts. One is Peggy will almost immediately become our senior senator from the state, and that matters in a seniority-driven body like the U.S. Senate. And the other is it can give someone kind of the leg up. And so a lot of folks are talking about, should that be Angie Craig? She was kind of the runner-up, and I think there's some rationale there. But I think the national political winds are moving to the left of Angie Craig. And so if I were the governor-elect or the new governor of the state of Minnesota, I would pay attention to where the nation is heading and make an appointment based on that. And another alternative could be that Senator Amy Klobuchar, as governor-elect, could resign her seat in the Senate, and then that would allow Governor Tim Walz to appoint someone. But I think this is going to be interesting. I've heard some people say, oh, we need to know what Amy Klobuchar as governor would appoint. I don't think we need to know, right? If I were someone who is the favored gubernatorial candidate and governor-elect, I would wait to see where things are kind of settling down, and maybe who from Minnesota would be the biggest contributor to some kind of direction within the Senate.
Well, I said earlier in the first segment that, Minnesota has been pretty liberal and pretty progressive for quite a few years. Our friends in Wisconsin, there was things happening there that I don't know if you want to comment on, but we got to vote blue no matter who. And I mean, there's things happening. We had the young lady on our show a while ago, and she didn't win. And we just got to really stay the course and really support whoever is wins that primary, I think.
Agree. And I'm sorry, I'm trying to find her name really quickly. Is it Hong? Is that her name? Yeah. So she didn't win. She was really up in the polls. She's a Democratic Socialist, and she did very well. I mean, I think the amazing thing in Wisconsin is that it came in about a half a point, right, was the spread between the victor and Hong, and that's not much. And in Minnesota, that would trigger a recount, right? Just automatically a half a point. Right. But even Hung conceded right away, right? And to David Crowley, it was, exactly half a point separated Francesca Hung and David Hawley. And I really respect that. And right at the end of the campaign, and I thought Hung was a really, really interesting candidate. But things are starting to hit at her, I'm sure attacks from the right because she's a democratic socialist. But at the end of the day, she might not have been the best candidate, but she is a good one, right? And so now we have another progressive in place, which this David Crowley, super excited about. And you're right. I think people will get behind him. And it has to do with their opponents, right? Like Angie Craig conceding, Hawk conceding. It has to do with their support and where that goes. So I'm excited.
Yeah, well, hey, maybe next segment we can talk just a little bit about how different a progressive Democrat would do here as opposed to Tennessee. There's more, they have to be more of the middle to get the votes and things like that, these red states. But things are happening all over Turtle Island here with these elections, and we're really excited to talk about it here with Robert Lilligren. This is Native Roots Radio, and we'll be right back after this short break. Please stay with us. Ho-wah.
Planning to ride Metro Transit? Starting Saturday, August 22nd, quarterly service changes will take effect on some bus and rail routes. These regular updates help Metro Transit match service to customer needs and make the best use of available resources. Before you travel, check to see if your route is affected. Updated schedules and a summary of all service changes are available now at metrotransit.org. Again, find those changes at metrotransit.org.
Heart health is more than just the physical well-being. It represents like a foundation of vitality, resilience, and the ability to live fully.
Your heart carries stories of resilience, love, and survival. Caring for your heart means honoring yourself and the generations before and after you. It means protecting your ability to gather, laugh, and be present. Learn more about your heart health at hennepincounty.gov/heart-beats, because your story matters and your heart beats for generations. Hey, it's Robert Pilot from Native Roots Radio. For a meal that feeds your soul and health, check out Gatherings Cafe. Located in the renovated Minneapolis American Indian Center, Executive Chef Vernon Defoe and team serve up incredible indigenous flavors. Gatherings Cafe has amazing bison tacos featuring lean protein from native wise, corn tortillas, and homemade sides. It's fresh, local food rooted in ancestral knowledge. Stop by for breakfast or lunch. That's Gatherings Cafe, where tradition meets innovation.
The City of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis Air. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis Air dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis Air on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
Fair fun starts on Metro Transit. Instead of driving, park your car for free at one of 6 express bus sites and take a non-stop air-conditioned ride straight to the Minnesota State Fair. Or take one of the 3 regular bus routes that serve the fairgrounds. Learn more at metrotransit.org/state-fair. That's metrotransit.org/state-fair.
When we heal from our traumas,
when we face our fears,
let go of our addictions,
when we relearn our values,
when we live our teachings,
respecting our elders,
cherishing and honoring our children,
when we honor and take care of our spirit,
there will be no room left for sexual violence.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
August means the beginning of football season, and Popcorn in Minnetonka has you ready to go with their flavor of the month, beer cheese pretzel popcorn. It's Popcorn's delicious cheesy popcorn made with real cheese, salty good pretzel pieces, all covered in a beer cheese seasoning. The perfect snack for your pro and college preseason ramp up. And get your popcorn in a tin featuring sports and military logos in either 1 or 3 gallon sizes. Visit Popcorn Store in Minnetonka or order online to ship their amazing popcorn across the USA. Go to popcorn.com. That's popcorn.com.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Tonight, partly cloudy with a low of 66, then Friday, a chance of showers with a high of 84. Farmer's Kitchen and Bar brings the flavors of the harvest to downtown Minneapolis, featuring selections like locally sourced poultry and wild rice meatballs. Farmer's Kitchen and Bar is located on 2nd Street next to the Guthrie Theater. Check them out at farmerskitchenandbar.com.
AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
You're listening to Native Roots Radio. I'm Bobby Wilson. Witcha.
Welcome to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanjahade, which means distant thunder. Hey, we are here with Robert Lilligren, our friend, CEO and president of Native American Community Development Institute. And we're just having a great conversation here, feeling good about the future of this country and future of Native resilience. Robert, I kind of mentioned that there's different flavors of progressiveness, but liberalism in different states. The more south you get, the lieutenant governor might not get elected down there, but somebody more in the middle. I mean, there's different flavors in each state. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, I think you're right. And in a two-party system, which sometimes I wish we had more of a multi-party system in this country because we're so diverse, but we have the two-party system, and we work mostly within that. Of course, there are some independents in DC and in elected office. But overall, I mean, I think it's kind of a generalization, but you can generalize that the further south you move, the more conservative politics become. And when you look at maps around political views, or a lot of views actually, the southeastern part, the former Confederacy of this country, is deeply entrenched conservatives. And then in places like Tennessee that you mentioned, the conservative majorities have used their legislative power to really stilt maps, right? Congressional maps, redistricting maps, so that it's very difficult for Democrats to win in these states. And Tennessee is playing that right now. They kind of got the stamp from the Supreme Court to implement their super skewed congressional district that broke up their one black majority congressional district, right? So we're seeing how that plays out, and the gutting of the Voters' Rights Act and others have created these maps where it continues to make Democrats, it's I was going to say cheating. Maybe I won't say cheating because they're following laws and rules, but it's really not reflecting the populations in those districts and voter intent in those districts. And so it's kind of hard to see, but I think, again, there's a major kind of shift into what I'm going to keep calling the post-Trump political era. Yes. People know that we have a corrupt administration in DC that is intentionally benefiting the wealthiest people. And as long as the New York Stock Exchange is doing well, supposedly everyone's doing well. It's the worst of trickle-down kind of politics that I've even seen in my life. We're not all doing well. We are all hurting. And we need a federal government that will start serving all the people, not just the richest.
Well, and then back to Wisconsin, because we have a big listening audience in Wisconsin. Their Supreme Court elections, I know Elon was trying to spend millions and millions of dollars.
He spent millions, like 25 million. Yeah.
Right. He was trying to throw that to the more conservative, and it didn't work. So hopefully Wisconsin is slowly becoming ungerrymandered and And it is. So I think by 2028, we're really going to see a big change there.
I agree in that Wisconsin Supreme Court makeup is critical to this. That's why Elon and his billionaire buddies were so interested in making sure that it was a conservative majority. I mean, we call them conservatives. I don't think they're really even conservative. I would call them selfish, maybe, or something self-serving majority. But they have a very progressive majority on their Supreme Court now, which will make a difference in 2028. I think you're exactly right. But by and large, I've always been a little bit of a conspiracy theorist, but I've become disillusioned in these years where it's not so much about political differences. It's about what serves me the best. And so we call it conservative. You can call it status quo, whatever you want to call it. But I think people are tired of it, right? I'm tired of billionaires using our democracy as a plaything and a self-serving strategy.
Well, you'd be proud of me, Robert. It took me not this last Supreme Court election, but the Supreme Court election before that was a couple of years earlier. And I worked on Protasewicz for so long to say that name, and it rolls right out right now.
I love it. I love it. And we'll see what happens next, right? And we'll see what happens with the expected shift in the U.S. Capitol, what happens with the Supreme Court there. And, you see these Republicans using all these kind of weird scare tactics about what the communists who are going to be elected are going to do in D.C. And I just don't feel that stuff landing anymore, We are hurting so much as a country. We are hurting so much as individual households and families and individuals that, trying to scare us with these ideas of socialism or what progressives are going to do, I don't think it's really hitting anymore. That day is done. It's post-Trump. We're post-Trump.
Yeah, I love it. And then we can work on and I like Jimmy Kimmel's trademarked Trump Epstein files.
I know. And maybe that'll finally come out. I mean, the little bit that's dribbling out just sounds worse and worse. I mean, this is about the worst of, child endangerment, right? Within those Epstein files. And I just read a commentary today that's why they're still being suppressed so aggressively, is because it's bad.
Yeah, well, and I really always love to bring this up, and I know you and I have talked about this before, but when Nixon resigned and all the Watergate stuff happened, he didn't go to prison, but his attorney general did, and a bunch of other people. So hopefully, and I know our lieutenant governor will be ahead of on top of this, is to take these guys to court that have really ruined this country and greeted out with billions of dollars in their pockets.
Right, I agree. And it's about they committed crimes, right? And being of the generation that lived through the Watergate scandals and trials, that seems so mild compared to what we're living through today. But if people committed crimes, there should be consequences, right? And a lot of these people at the top of the Republican structure are always pounding on that point about whether it's welfare fraud or street crimes or things like that. Committing crime should have consequences. Well, okay, let's apply that equitably, right? And you have a president that's pardoning fraudsters and all these other criminals, but then they're beating up on communities where there may have been some fraud in government programs. It's like, well, look at yours though. You guys are committing more fraud than all of these people combined, and yet you get free passes. And so that equitable application of the law, I think, is something we really need right now, and we're not getting it.
I have a question. That's the big thing that the Republicans are pounding their drum on is the fraud. Where were the Republicans for this? Why is this a Democrat thing? Weren't they elected too in office? I don't understand how this could be just a Democratic Party. Probably.
Agree. I mean, and yes, fraud is bad, and we should prosecute it and prevent it really as much as possible. And so there's this sort of narrower lane of government fraud, and we've seen that in programs here. I'm not denying it. And but the fraud being committed by the billionaires and the millionaires and those in power right now goes beyond anything happening through government programs. And somehow that's okay because it keeps this administration in power and well-fed and things. And somehow when it happens in Minnesota or any state, it's somehow a bad thing. And so it's just, in politics and in life, I always try to assume good intentions. But in this case, I can't assume good intentions. This is greedy people looking after their revenue sources and victimizing or making into victims other people. And it's just the hypocrisy we see out of this administration.
How can people stay more engaged, and how do you stay engaged? Because again, I really believe this, and is that our mainstream media has really been failing us for quite a long time here. And how can our listeners plug into really what's going on? Because they almost had me convinced that it was going to be a really close race with the lieutenant governor and Angie Craig, and it was a blowout. I mean, are they trying to sell ads? And where do you get your news?
So, great question. Thanks. And my answer was going to be, and you just sort of cemented that, is be selective about your news sources, right? AM 950 is a good one, but part of it is the far right just lives in a total echo chamber. But they watch Fox News and Newsmax or whatever that is, and they believe that, right? And so for me, it's very important to sort of be selective about my news sources, and that I'm not in an echo chamber. But I don't want to just hear the progressive talking points. I want to hear a more balanced approach. So we have the internet today, right? We didn't have that when you and I were coming of age. So we can choose where we want our news to come from, and I would encourage everyone to do that. One of my sisters, I was talking to her just before the primary, and I'm like, oh, you're voting for Peggy, right? And Peggy Flanagan. And she's like, well, I read all this. She has all those negative ads. And I'm like, where are you getting your news? She said, YouTube. And I said, it's that, what was it called? North Star Down, which was the dark money PAC for Angie Craig. And I said, are you talking to North Star Down stuff? She goes, I go, that's Angie. That's not Peggy. So even she was trying to be selective about her sources and still got taken a little off track.
Yeah. And that can happen really easy. And we really have to be really thinkers when we hear this stuff too, because, there's stations out there that I like because the weather's close to my house. But other than that, I just shake my head when I hear things that are so slanted, as news. Hey, we're here with Robert Lilligren, and we're going to take a quick break. And we haven't talked to Robert about this in a while, but we want to know how Native American Community Development Institute's doing and what they do, and put a spotlight on his organization. We'll be right back after this short break. Oh,
Planning to ride Metro Transit? Starting Saturday, August 22nd, quarterly service changes will take effect on some bus and rail routes. These regular updates help Metro Transit match service to customer needs and make the best use of available resources. Before you travel, check to see if your route is affected. Updated schedules and a summary of all service changes are available now at metrotransit.org. Again, find those changes at metrotransit.org.
The City of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis Air dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis Air on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
Culture prevents so many negative things from happening to us as individuals and as communities.
Strong roots begin with a healthy heart. For Indigenous women, heart health is part of caring for community, culture, and future generations. Even small steps can help protect what matters most. Discover ways to support your heart at hennepincounty.gov/hearts-beats, because your heart beats for generations.
Fair fun starts on Metro Transit. Instead of driving, park your car for free at one of 6 express bus sites and take a nonstop air-conditioned ride straight to the Minnesota State Fair. Or take one of the 3 regular bus routes that serve the fairgrounds. Learn more at metrotransit.org/state-fair. That's metrotransit.org/state-fair.
Hi, it's Dr. Evan Adams, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio. Hey, Victor, you better be listening.
In this portion of the show, we'd like to bring awareness to our wolf and bear populations throughout Turtle Island. Say no to the hunts.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio. I always laugh at Wendy's rawr, her little bear.
I love it.
But hey, before we get into Native American Community Development Institute, I want to make sure that you've spoken everything you wanted to about our conversation today, because it's been very interesting and very, very soothing to kind of, for me, kind of, confirm a lot of the things that I've been thinking. And so I've really enjoyed this conversation. Do you have anything else you'd like to bring up before we talk about NACDI?
Yeah, thanks, Robert. And one thing I would lift up, and I'm really impressed, so we're still processing the Minnesota primary election results. Elections were Tuesday. And one of the really interesting developments I find is in Minnesota Congressional District 2, which is sort of the western suburbs of the Twin Cities. And it was where Angie Craig, the retiring congressperson, first ran. And in the primary there, the Democratic victor was young, I think of him as young at this age, but candidate named Matt Little. And he is on the progressive side. He had the support of a lot of high-profile national progressives and things. And this is a part of the state and a part of the city that a lot of people thought was difficult for progressives to win. And of course, Angie Craig kind of broke the barrier and shifted it from Republican to Democratic. But Matt Little is really taking that to the next level. He's a solid progressive. I followed his career, and I was in office when he first got elected as mayor of Lakeville, I think it was, which is considered a fairly conservative part.
Yeah.
State. He was super young. If I remember correctly, he was like 21 years old when he was first elected as mayor. And he has stayed really true to his political values. And now he's likely to, knock wood, prevail as their next congressperson. And again, I just think that shows, to me, that's a indication of how the national political feeling has just changed. We're ready for something different. And so these younger progressive politicians who are prevailing in these areas where people didn't think they were going to prevail.
Right.
Whether that's the mayor of New York or the winner of the primary in Michigan, right?
Yeah.
Wow. So I'm excited about that. So this Matt Little, I think that's one of the races to watch.
Yeah, that's excellent. And once we get all these progressive people in, let's get some laws in there, get some things that are standardized, because you and I are old enough to remember that the pendulum really goes back and forth over,
Right.
40 years or 80 years. There's fascism. And so let's get these laws in there, and some standards, like maybe a enlarged Supreme Court and things like that.
Right. I think that's got to be a given, expanding the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court does not represent the majority of the American people right now. And so, yeah, so we will see. But the party in power almost always takes, as Obama said, a shellacking in the midterms. And I think we might see a historical shellacking and shift in this cycle, and hopefully a federal government that really serves all people and not just the richest few.
Right, exactly. And I believe that's one of the things that we really need to talk about and keep talking about. It's rich versus the poor, and the rich have been really working on the poor with all these boogeymans, whether it's gay marriage, whether it's transgender, whether it's Italians, whether it's Irish. I mean, they've been doing this for as long as this country's been around, is making big boogeymans.
Right. And so for people like us, I think it's really important that we re-embrace the founding principles of this nation. And yeah, it was created to support white property owning men, but our foundational documents are broader than that, right?
Mm-hmm.
All men, I would say all people, are created equal. Right. And so how do we live those values? And right now we're not living those values.
No, we're not. Hey, so let people know what Native American community development is. Maybe their first time listener, and we have a gob of people. That's an old way to say that, right? A gob of people listening to us in Wisconsin too, on civic media, and in Chicago too.
Yeah, appreciate the opportunity. So I work for an organization called NACDI, the Native American Community Development Institute. We're an asset-based community development intermediary. We focus and keep our relationships and community authentic between in program areas, including food sovereignty with our Four Sisters Farmers Market and our farm, with arts and culture through All My Relations Arts, and with civic engagement through Make Voting a Tradition, and we're systems change people, right? So we use these authentic community relationships to engage with non-native systems, to teach them how to be more effective in engaging with the native community. And so for years I heard, yeah, we're trying to get native people involved in our program, in our institution, in our museum. And they go, yeah, we invited them, and folks showed up and smiled and nodded, and then they never came back. And I would always smile and nod and go, yep, that's what native people do, right? So rather than trying to adapt the community to better engage with those institutions, it's to educate those institutions how to better engage with native people. And I'm proud to say we've had a fair amount of success.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's funny what you said too. And that reminded me too, like when we had our last census, that we had a jump in how many natives are out there. And it's funny because our ancestors are used to hiding and are good hiders. So it's interesting that people were surprised about that, because I don't think you and I were surprised that.
No, I wasn't. But you're right. It's a generational thing, right? And I remember our brilliant elder Sharon Day here, an important cultural and spiritual cultural carrier here. I remember her once talking about two-spirit people, right? And this two-spirit couple on the reservation where she grew up and things. And she talked to some elders about them, and everybody knew that they were a couple, right? But nobody talked about it. And she talked to an elder who said, yeah, we had to hide them to protect them. She said, protected them. And the elder said, maybe we hid them too well.
Yeah. Really good point. Really good point. You know, we got like less than a minute left. If people want to check out Native American Community Development Institute or donate money or anything, do you have a website and
Yeah, for sure. I invite people to check out NACDI.org, NACDI.org, educating yourself. Of course, contributions are always welcome, but that's not why I came on, to raise money. But these are tough times for nonprofits. The Trump administration has shifted giving away from social justice organizations like NACDI, so all help is appreciated.
Well, and we'd like to amplify that very thing. Thank you so much, Robert Lilligren, CEO of Native American Community Development Institute, for coming on the whole hour here. I really appreciate it. I feel like I got to get you another T-shirt or something for this one.
I welcome all T-shirts.
Right on. Hey, if you're listening to the show, you're part of the resistance. From Chief Plenty Coops to ground on which we stand on, it's sacred ground. We'll be here tomorrow. This has been Native Roots Radio. Have a great night.
Fair fun starts on Metro Transit.